Welcome, everyone, to our next session. I know that a lot of people are starting to make their way in and really excited to jump into our topic today. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So, I am Garrett Jestice. I'm the head of marketing at Lucidpress. And first off, I want to get to know who you are as well. So, you should see a chat off to the right side of your screen. Feel free to drop your name and company in the chat there so we can start to get to know each other. Our topic today is around brand trust. And I've done a lot of research into this topic, especially in the last few months with the impacts of COVID-19 and everything else. And I want to share some of the insights that I found, but I don't think anyone can really claim to be a true expert on this topic today. So I want to really encourage you to participate today and to use the chat there to add your thoughts and your insights and ask questions. I love seeing those start to come in right now. It's great to see all of you from all these different places across the globe. Thank you for joining with us today. And you have my commitment. I'm going to do my best to guide our conversation today and leave you with some tangible insights that hopefully you can take and apply in your businesses. So jumping into it, the real reason why you all are here, maybe you've heard, maybe you haven't, we're going to buy a couple of you lunch. If I could, I would love to sit down with each and every one of you and buy you lunch and get to know you a little bit better. But because that's not possible, we're going to give away a few DoorDash gift cards to buy you lunch at the end of our session today. You're going to need to be here in order to win. So stick around and we'll do that right at the very end. All right, our first question today. So I want to encourage you again to utilize that chat off to the right-hand side. We've faced a lot of challenges, lots of companies have this year. What's been the biggest challenge your company has faced so far in 2020? Let me know in the chat. I think a lot of people have faced the impacts of COVID-19. In real estate specifically, it's in some markets been deemed non-essential, and it's been difficult to figure out how we transition from an in-person and print medium to more digital. We'd love to hear your thoughts more in the chat as you continue to talk about that. We're going to launch our first poll now, though. So our first poll is: how much has COVID-19 and other societal issues today impacted your marketing strategies? Little or none? Is it moderate? Are you just tweaking your focus and messaging? Are you making big changes to your marketing strategies? Or are you drastically changing the way you do business? So we'll leave that open just for a couple seconds more, and we would love to see your response to that. Over in the polls section, you should be able to see the responses to that as we close out that poll. So great. It's looks like we have some information coming in there from those polls, and it looks like the vast majority of you are focusing on tweaking your messaging, or you've had a strong impact where you're making big changes to your marketing strategies. Well, I think you're not alone. There's a lot of companies in the same spot that you are. And one thing that I've found is that a brand that people know and trust is really your foundation for thriving in this new normal that we live in, whether that's for sales or recruiting new agents or for growth and expansion or anything else that you're doing. And the truth is, building a strong, trusted brand has always been important, but there's an even bigger need today in the world that we live in today. This is from some research from a company called Edelman, who does a lot of research into branding and marketing. And they found that 70% of people who they talk to say that trusting a brand is more important today than in the past. And what's really interesting to me about this is that statistic held pretty constant across all types of companies, all age demographics, genders, incomes, and markets. So it doesn't matter where you are, that it's important that you build strong brand trust. And the truth is, your response to what's happening in the world today with the COVID-19 pandemic and all the other challenges that our world is facing will influence future purchase decision and how much your customers trust you. So my big, bold claim today, if I could pound on my desk right now and you could all hear me say it, is I really, truly believe that the most important investment a brokerage and agents can make today is in a strong, consistent brand that people trust. And so when we talk about brand trust, what does that mean? Well, brand trust, again, from this research that Edelman has done, they found that trusted brands solve for the needs of their customers and societal issues that their customers care about. And they back their words with action. It's not just what they say, but it's more about what they do. And the truth is, in real estate, there's an added challenge of co-branding that exists that makes it difficult to build a strong, trusted brand. So an individual agent who has built their own network and their own personal brand over time. Let's take Roy here as an example. He doesn't want the same postcard that everyone at your company is producing. He wants something that reflects his own brand. But how do you allow him to do that within the bounds where it's still consistent with your brokerage's brand? It's a big challenge. I'm sure many of you have faced this before. And for that reason, building a strong, trusted brand is not just marketing's responsibility. It's everyone's. Whether they realize it or not, they're contributing in either building or undermining your brokerage's brand over time. So here's some questions that I want to discuss together. Again, I definitely encourage you to use the chat there off to the right-hand side and chime in. And so the first thing that we're going to talk about is what should we be saying and doing right now? And next is how can we empower agents to build their personal brands while still maintaining a unified, consistent brand voice? So first, what should we be saying and doing right now as brands? So we're going to launch our second poll. You should see that pop up on your screen here in a second. And this poll is, how concerned are you about saying or doing the wrong thing that may harm your brand image? Are you not concerned at all about that? Are you somewhat concerned, or are you very concerned? We know that as we've talked to lots of people that some companies have been impacted very differently. A lot have been not impacted at all, and so therefore aren't as concerned. And some have been very impacted and therefore are very concerned. All right, so as we wrap up that poll, you can see the results of that poll here shortly, and it looks like the vast majority of you are very concerned or somewhat concerned about saying or doing the wrong thing that may harm your brand image. And you're not alone. This is a common objection or common concern that lots of people have. So I want to hear from you. I think that as we participate in this, we can share ideas with each other on what's working and what's not. So what has helped you the most in determining your brand's response to COVID-19 and other issues that we're facing today? Let me know in the chat. And as you do that, as you start sharing some of your ideas, I want to share with you some of the resources that I've found to be super helpful in determining our company's or our brand's response. The first is that you need to make sure that you know who you are as a brand. This seems pretty obvious, but I think it's surprising how many brands don't have this documented, and this isn't well understood. So what you see here is a screenshot of our company's brand architecture. It's a simple one-page front and back document that we've had for a while, but as COVID-19 came about, we dusted this off and were able to make sure that that it's still relevant, number one, and that everyone understood the different pieces of this because it guided our decisions on what to say and what to do. So this walks through a few different elements. There's lots of other frameworks out there that you can use. The key is making sure that you know who you are and what you stand for as a brand. So in this one, we outlined our vision, our mission, a simple explanation of what we do and how we behave, some of our brand drivers or the most important concepts around which our brand is aligned, and then some of the dominant characteristics and personality traits and attributes also that we want people to feel and think when they experience and interact with our brand. So first, determine you know who you are as your brand. Next, you need to consider your immediate, near-term, and long-term actions. So this is from a worksheet, again, from some of the research that Edelman has done. And again, I'm not affiliated with Edelman at all, but I think that they've put out some really great resources that I'd highly recommend. So immediately after a crisis, you evaluate your immediate needs. Questions you might ask at this stage, or can your business fill a direct need at this time? Could you join up with other companies or brands to take collective action? What can you do to help your people and those in your value chain? So in real estate, maybe that's mortgage or brokerages or lenders or others that you work with. How else can you help and serve the people around you or support the communities that you operate in? These are all questions you should be asking right after a crisis. most of us have gone through this stage. We might be in the middle of this stage right now. As you move in then to the near-term actions, where probably most of us are right now, our questions transition to, what is our brand purpose? If we don't have one articulated, what's our permission and our role to act in the space that we're in? If you do have a brand purpose, like what I showed you, then you need to evaluate, has your role changed or has it taken on new meaning in light of recent events? And then always be asking, what gap can your brand fill that others can't? What unique value can you provide? Long-term, as you move into this is all about evaluating your long-term purpose and strategy and how it fits into the new normal. So what is your brand's role in this new normal? And has it shifted in a meaningful way? Are there trends happening in the world today that maybe have impacted your brand purpose? And where do you have license to act bolder and think bigger? So again, I love this framework because it helps solidify what you do now and into the future. Something to point out here is that, and many of you have probably realized this, but brand reassurances have really become commonplace for many people, and we're getting sick of them. So you can see a couple of kind of funny tweets here, and there's many more online. Maybe you've seen these as well. The first one here on the left is opens freezer, note falls out. We here at Totina's Pizza Rolls know you've been wondering about our response to COVID-19, right? Kind of funny, but the truth is we've all experienced this as consumers. We've probably had inboxes at one point that looked like this, that it was completely full of responses to COVID-19 from every single brand we've interacted with in the past. This tweet from Christopher here said, my health and safety is the top priority of so many brands I never knew had my personal email address. Kind of funny, but kind of true. And many of us have experienced that. And the truth is that these types of messages can feel hollow or inauthentic if said too much or in the wrong way. I asked my social media network what they thought were good examples of how brands have responded. And Brett here, that you see on the top left, his response I thought was really interesting. He said, instead of saying something that I've seen that's worked, he said, can I say what hasn't worked for me? Tying everything to COVID or protests. I know companies want to be relevant, but watching TV to relax gets really depressing when every ad seems to be about how bad the world is. Even the uplifting ads on the same topic don't really help. How about a sense of normalcy sometimes? I'll buy that. I think a lot of people have felt just like Brett here, as we've been bombarded with so many similar messages from so many different companies the last few months. So the question is, what's the right thing to say? I love this quote from a Fast Company article that I found. It said, the best way that brands should be responding is if they actually have something to say or contribute. Our patience for marketing fluff is low at the best of times, but now it's positively toxic. Tell us about your policy or service changes. Help us with discounts or charitable drives. Tell us how you're taking care of your workers. So two things I really like about this is contribute if you have something to say. Don't just follow what everyone else is saying. And second, talk about what you're doing. Don't just talk just to talk, right? I like this comment again from one of my connections on social media. Andrew said, the strategy that I've appreciated the most is a good middle ground where the company advertising addresses the context of the time without hitting it real heavy. He explained, an example would be companies that have announced that they now have contactless payment without having to let me know that they're, quote, trying so hard in these unprecedented times to meet my needs better than they ever have before. Companies on the other end of the spectrum have either come across as completely tone deaf or sentimental to the point of appearing disingenuous. I think we've all seen this. So finding the right balance for your messaging and making sure that you're true to your brand values. Not every brand has to be the hero in this stage or be overly empathetic. In fact, Ryan Coos, the head of brand strategy, said that this is an instructive moment for brands as they consider their go-forward posture on marketing, messaging, and customer engagement. The takeaway for brands is to be helpful, relevant, informative, constructively distracting, or authentically compassionate. What I really like about this is he gives a couple of different options for ways that brands can act. The key is to understand, again, who you are as a brand and how you can contribute in the best way. For some brands, it doesn't make sense to be compassionate because it comes off as inauthentic. So instead, be constructively distracting if that's what works for you, or be helpful or relevant or informative if you have information that you can help provide to your markets. More important than what we say, though, is really what we're doing. And so I want to give a couple of examples of what other companies are doing. So this is my friend Remington. He's the brand manager. He's a creative director at Dave Perry Miller Companies and a brand manager for the Ebby Halliday Companies in the Dallas, Texas area. So one of the largest real estate companies in the Texas area. And he said one thing that's been very successful for them is avoiding the usual cliche real estate message of there's never been a better time to buy or sell. Instead, they focused on what they're doing. He said, we've started releasing weekly photo hunts on Fridays, neighborhood scavenger hunts, COVID time capsules, and other non-traditional marketing pieces designed not only to capture some of the nostalgia of the past, but create activities where families can come together during quarantine. Any of the marketing we're putting out that wouldn't be categorized as feel-good or family-centric plays upon the emotional connection to home with the lighthearted commentary about how long you've been in your house over quarantine and what you're realizing it's lacking. The response from our own agents has been huge, and our online interaction engagement has never been higher. So I really love this because Remington decided to focus on action. They focused their marketing on things that they could do, and they realized that they could create activities where families could come together and be constructively distracting at this time, right? And they've seen the benefits from that. Another example here from one of my connections online, Bradley, said that they've focused on doubling down on customer success and relationships. And so when I asked him to clarify and provide more detail, he said that they often sell to apartment owners that have the residents as their customers. So during this time, they've reached out to the property staff and provided them with, and their residents with, meals and gift cards to help anyone that was struggling. So that personal touch solidified them as a partner they wanted to work with and opened up doors for more of their portfolio. So again, I love this because they focus on what are the needs that their customers have and how could they help fulfill those needs, right? So again, I want to hear from you. What's working for your brand? Let us know in the chat over here. What's been the most impactful changes you've made to your brand or your marketing strategies? I'd love to hear again over in the chat what's working for you. Some takeaways as you continue to add there. What do we say? Well, we should be helpful, relevant, informative, constructively distracting, or authentically compassionate. What we say should really be determined by who we are as a brand. The key is to be real, be human, be true to your brand values, and don't just follow what other brands are saying. You got to know when to take the middle ground, when to speak up, and when to stop talking. And a lot of that is determined by who you are as a brand. A key takeaway, though, is to say something. Don't be silent in this time. What should we be doing? Well, first, make sure you know who you are as a brand, because that will help determine your immediate, near-term, and long-term actions. Support, serve, and add values in ways that just align with your brand. It's key to remember that not every brand has to be the hero. Do something, though. Don't be absent. Remember that brand trust is earned by what you do and what you say in moments like this, especially of crisis. And so do something, say something. All right, moving into our next big question I want to tackle today is how can we empower agents to build their personal brands while maintaining a unified, consistent brand voice? I've heard this a lot from many organizations out there, but I think especially in real estate where you have that co-branding with agents, that issue, and how do you manage that? So I want to provide a little bit of context on this issue today, too. There's been a change that's been happening in our world today that I want to talk to you a little about. It's what we call the content economy. And so part of the content economy is that the demand for content is increasing. If you work at a growing company, especially if you're on a marketing team, you have seen the increased demand of content. And it seems like the last few months for many of us, COVID-19 has only accelerated that need. Everyone at your company is also now a content creator, right? Whether it's agents or office admins or others, partners, vendors, everyone is creating content across a variety of channels, print and digital, for an increasingly fragmented audience. You know, we found from other research out there that central marketing or creative teams are producing 10 times the volume of content than in previous years. If you're on a marketing team, have you felt that? Have you seen that? I'm sure you have. And that is not sustainable. You know, our teams probably haven't grown at the same rate. So how do you continue to manage that, right? What's also complicates this issue is it's getting harder and harder for content. When I say content, I mean not just blog posts. I mean any type of marketing or sales materials that you put out there that's branded. And so it's getting harder for all of that content to really break through the noise. Many of you have probably seen these stats before about the average number of advertisements that a person sees per day. In 1984, it was around 2,000 ads per day that the average person saw. In 2007, that increased to around 5,000 ads per day. And today, it's estimated to be somewhere between 7,000 and 10,000 ads per day. So just putting content out there just to show up is not enough anymore. Really, you need to make sure that the content that you put out there is really effective. And so what do we mean when we say effective content? Well, I think effective content really meets the needs of key stakeholders. First, it meets the needs of customers. It answers their questions. It educates or it entertains them at a certain point in time. It's timely and it's relevant for them. Agents who might be on the front lines out there, they have certain needs for their content. They want it to communicate something to the customers that they're working with. And they need it to incorporate some of the expertise that they have on their individual market or the customers that they're working with. The brand or the central marketing team has needs. It needs to be on brand and consistent and relevant. And of course, the business has needs. Content needs to help ultimately move people to purchase. It needs to help increase market share and trust. The truth is that consistent, effective content over time is really what builds brand trust and leads to ultimately increased market share for your company. So when you have effective content that's consistent over time, it leads to that growth of brand trust. And when you have that brand trust, it leads to loyalty, engagement, and advocacy by your customers. So again, from some of that research that Edelman has done that I've talked about, loyalty, 75% of people with high brand trust say they'll buy the brand's product or service, even if it isn't the cheapest. Engagement, 60% of people with high brand trust say they pay attention to the brand's communications, helping you stand out from the noise. And advocacy, 78% of people with high brand trust say they'll likely share or repost content about the brand, or recommend the brand to others, or even defend the brand against criticism when they have that high brand trust. So again, all these things, loyalty, engagement, and advocacy, what do those lead to? You know it. Increased market share. This is the key to really building a thriving brokerage in today's climate. So here's our next poll. On average, how much of the content that your company produces would you say is effective? You see that popping up there. Is it less than 25% of your content is effective? And when we say effective, it means, again, meets the needs of customers, agents, your brand or your marketing team, and your business. Is it less than 25%, 25 to 50, 50 to 75, or is it more than 75% of your content is effective? It's just a couple more seconds and we will see the results of that poll. All right, looks like that's starting to come in interesting. So we're a little bit mixed across the board there. You can see the results of that. 21% of you, less than 25% of your content is effective. So I'd say about half are less than 50%. About 30% of you are in that 50 to 75%, so most of your content. And then there's 21% of you who have more than 3/4 of your content is effective. That's great. Love that. That means that what you're doing is effective. The truth is creating effective content today takes a full team effort. The siloed efforts of the past no longer work. So two common, working ways that companies work in the past that we've seen is really, one is called the brand prison. And it's where you have a central marketing or brand team that creates all the content. They fulfill all the requests because they're the experts on the brand, right? How many of you have worked in a brand prison before in the past? The problem with the brand prison is that the content might be on brand. It might look good, but it might not incorporate the unique perspective and the expertise that your agents have. It might not fully meet the needs of the customer or the business. On the flip side of that is the Wild West. In the Wild West, you say, well, we can't really do this. We can't manage this as a central marketing team. So everyone create what they want. The problem with that is they might have a content that the agents are happy with or incorporates their expertise, but it's not necessarily on brand, doesn't necessarily meet those needs. So again, creating effective content meets the needs of all of those stakeholders and includes your entire team and all of their efforts. And COVID-19 has only made it more challenging for teams to collaborate today. And as many of you have seen, there's fewer people and resources, and we can't get stuff out fast enough. And in the content economy, there's going to be winners and losers. We've already started to see this happening. The losing organizations are those that limit creators, silo teams, and create ineffective content, while the winning organizations scale expertise of everyone, create truly relevant and effective content, and therefore build lasting brands. A solution for this is what I call brand templating. And brand templating is a process really just about empowering everyone with the tools and resources that they need to create on-brand content and that's effective quickly and easily. And it's the solution for thriving in today's content economy. And so what does brand templating really look like? Well, there's three main parts to it. The first is creating easy-to-find libraries of approved templates for all of the pieces of content that people need to create and the assets that they need to customize those things, which might be images, pre-written copy snippets, logos, data from MLS listings, right, that they can incorporate into those things. Once you have that library of templates and assets, one of the key pieces of brand templating is making sure you can lock down important elements of your brand on those templates to ensure consistency. So Roy here, for example, so he can go in and customize and make it his own within the parameters of what your brokerage's brand consists of. And so he can be unique and express his own personal brand, but also be consistent according to the brokerage's brand. And then lastly, once you have done that, you've set up the templates, you've provided assets, you've locked down the templates, you can empower everyone, agents or office admins or anyone else, to easily customize with those templates and assets and share the finalized content. And so in this way, building that strong, trusted brand is, again, it's not just marketing's responsibility. It's leveraging the collective expertise of everyone across your organization. And through this brand templating process, you can empower your team to create more effective content that ultimately increases brand trust and market share. And that's why, going back to what I said at the beginning, the most important investment a brokerage and agents can make today is in a strong, consistent brand that people trust. And so with that, we are about to the end. We just have a few minutes left here, and we've had some awesome engagement. Thank you for all of those who have contributed here today. I have a couple of names for our DoorDash winners. So if I get a little virtual drum roll wherever you're at, the first one is Joanna Naylor. Joanna Naylor, let us know if you're here in the chat. You are our first DoorDash winner. So we will send you this gift card after today. And the second one, a little drum roll here. The second one is Dan Smith. Dan, congratulations. Thank you for sticking around today, and hopefully you can enjoy this lunch on us. And so in the last few minutes here, we have a couple of questions. I appreciate all the engagement and that's come in and the questions that have come in. And I want to take a few minutes to answer those. So the first question that we have is, why wouldn't you start with who is my customer and what are their challenges, then move on to who you are as a brand? That was a question from Valerie. Valerie, I think you're absolutely right. I think that that's a key piece. We didn't talk about that a lot today, but I think a part of the reason is most companies have a pretty good sense of who their customers are. And I think it's always important to understand that. And that can help shape who you are as a brand. But the truth is, who you are as a brand is often, an average or collective personality of everyone at your company. In order to be truly who you are as a brand, it needs to be authentic. And so that honestly doesn't necessarily have to do with your customers. Of course, you need to understand the needs of your customers and how your brand might interact with them. But the best way to establish a brand, I have found, is to look at the collective or average personality traits of those across your company, and then make sure that you can have a brand expression that's consistent, that also still meets the needs of your customers. So again, while it's a valid and important piece, I think that it's important to first to evaluate who you are collectively as an organization. So it looks like, unfortunately, we are out of time. And so that is our only question today. If you have further questions, would love to chat more with you. So feel free to reach out. And I know we were able to just only have a few minutes to glaze over this brand templating today. And so if you'd like to learn more about it, We are actually doing another webinar tomorrow where we're going a little bit deeper. So feel free to join us. You can see the bit.ly link there at the bottom or at the top of your chat. We'd love to have you there. We'll go a little bit deeper. And if you have further questions about Lucidpress, feel free to reach out to us and love to chat further. So again, thank you so much and hope you all enjoy the rest of the sessions. Have a great day.